Commander Vela stood on the bridge of the Covenant warship, her 3 eyes fixed on the holographic display that dominated the center of the command deck. The patrol had been routine for the past 6 cycles, monitoring the edge of the quarantine zone where nothing was supposed to exist. The sector had been marked forbiddance for over 3,000 years. Ever since the awakened ones had fled from something so terrible that every civilization in the galaxy had agreed to seal it away forever. "Contact," her sensor officer announced, his voice breaking the monotonous hum of the bridge. "Mass signature emerging from hyperspace at grid 749. Vela's middle eye narrowed. Nothing should be out here. The quarantine buoys transmitted warnings in every known language, and the automated defense platforms would have already engaged any vessel foolish enough to violate the boundary. Classification? She demanded. The sensor officer's scales shifted from blue to pale yellow, a sign of confusion among her species. Unknown. The profile doesn't match any vessel in our database. Hull composition is primitive, mostly iron alloys and carbon composites. But the energy signature is massive. Vela moved closer to the display, watching as the sensor data resolved into something resembling a ship. It was crude compared to Covenant vessels. Angular where theirs were smooth, blocky where efficiency demanded curves. Yet something about its design suggested purpose rather than ignorance. "Send the standard warning," she ordered. "All frequencies." The communications officer complied, broadcasting the message that had kept the quarantine zone empty for millennia. The ship continued its approach, seemingly oblivious to the threat it represented and the danger it faced. "No response," communications reported. "They're either ignoring us or can't receive our transmission." "Ready weapons," Vela commanded. "If they cross the threshold, we fire." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, bringing the Covenant warship's formidable arsenal online. Plasma cannons charged, missile tubes loaded, and the point defense grid activated. The primitive vessel continued forward, now only minutes from the boundary that separated the quarantine zone from the rest of civilized space. That it stopped. Vela watched, tension coiling in her chest as the unknown ship held position exactly at the threshold. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then her communications console lit up with an incoming transmission. "Play it," she said. The voice that emerged from the speakers was unlike anything Vela had heard before. It carried harmonics that suggested it came from a species with a single voice box, limited to a narrow range of frequencies. Yet there was something compelling about its tone, a quality that demanded attention. "This is Captain Brooks of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We come in peace and request permission to enter your space. We've been searching for other intelligent life for a very long time." Vela felt her blood chill. Earth, human, the words from the old stories. The legends that elder speakers shared in hushed tones when they thought the young weren't listening. The species that had been sealed away because they were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too willing to fight when fighting meant extinction. "Humans," her tactical officer whispered, and the word spread across the bridge like ice water. "Maintain weapons lock," Vela ordered, though her voice carried less certainty than before. "Send response. You are in violation of Galactic Accord 793. The quarantine zone is forbiddance. Return to your point of origin immediately." The response came quickly. "Quarantine zone? Captain Brooks here again. I think there's been a misunderstanding. We launched from Earth 60 years ago on a deep space exploration mission. We've been following promising signals for the last decade. We didn't know we were entering restricted space. 60 years? Vela did the calculations quickly. If they had primitive faster-than-light technology, that would put their launch point well within the quarantine zone, which meant the containment had failed, or more terrifyingly, had never worked at all. "They've been inside the zone the entire time," her science officer said, confirming her fears. If the old records are accurate, Earth is deep in the core of the quarantined region. How is that possible? Vila demanded. The awakened ones sealed that entire sector. Nothing should have survived. Perhaps nothing did, the science officer suggested. Perhaps these humans evolved after the sealing. In 3,000 years? Vila's scales rippled with disbelief. Evolution doesn't work that fast. The human captain's voice returned. Look, we can see your weapons are armed. We're not looking for trouble. We just want to talk. We've been alone for so long, searching for proof that we're not the only ones out here. Please. There was something in that plea, that admission of isolation, that struck Vila deeply. Her species had never known true loneliness. They had been part of the Covenant from the moment they developed radio technology, welcomed into a community of thousands of worlds. But these humans had been sealed away, trapped in their corner of space, believing themselves alone in an infinite universe. Stand down weapons, she ordered quietly. Commander? Her tactical officer protested. I said stand down. Vila moved to the communication station. Captain Brooks, this is Commander Vela of the Covenant Warship Eternal Vigil. Before we proceed further, I need to ask you some questions. What do you know about the devourers? There was a pause. The what? The devourers. The entities that consumed entire star systems. The reason your space was quarantined. Another pause, longer this time. Commander, I don't know what your records say, but we've surveyed hundreds of systems in our local cluster. We've found ruins, dead worlds, evidence of ancient civilizations. But no entities, no devourers, nothing alive except us. Vila felt the pieces clicking together in her mind. Describe these ruins. Old, really old. Our best estimates put them at least 3,000 years in the past. Whatever happened to them, it was sudden. We found cities intact but empty, ships dead in orbit, entire populations just gone. They didn't flee, Mila said, more to herself than to the human. They were consumed. But if the humans survived, if they evolved or emerged after. Commander, are you saying we've been living in a graveyard? Brooks asked, and now his voice carried an edge of horror. Yes. Your entire species exists in what was once a thriving sector of the galaxy, home to dozens of civilizations. They were destroyed by entities we called the devourers. The awakened ones, the most advanced species in the galaxy at the time, managed to seal the devourers away, but at the cost of everything in that region of space. How long ago? 3,000 years. Give or take a century. The silence stretched longer this time. When Brooks spoke again, his voice was different, heavier. Then we owe them everything. We exist because they sacrificed themselves to stop something terrible. We've been exploring a tomb without even knowing it. Vila made a decision that she knew would echo through the Covenant for generations. Captain Brooks, I'm granting you permission to cross the threshold. But understand this, the galaxy you're about to enter will not welcome you with open arms. The stories of humans are old and frightening. You'll need advocates. And you're volunteering? Someone has to. Besides, any species that can survive in a graveyard for 3,000 years and still maintain hope of finding others deserves a chance. She watched on her sensors as the human ship, the Prometheus, crossed the boundary that it held for millennia. It was crude, primitive, held together by determination and welded steel. But it was moving, and it was crewed by beings who had spent generations searching for something they had no guarantee existed. All ships. Stand ready, but do not fire. Vila commanded across the fleet channel. The humans are coming home, whether the galaxy is ready or not. As the Prometheus drew closer, Vila wondered what the Covenant would make of these survivors from the quarantine zone. The old stories painted humans as warriors without equal, as beings who fought with such ferocity that even the awakened ones had feared them. But the voice she had heard carried no threat, only hope and loneliness finally ending. Perhaps, she thought, the legends had been wrong. Or perhaps they had been right, and the galaxy was about to learn that the most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their capacity for violence, but their refusal to give up hope even when sealed away from everything they might have known. The stars watched as the human ship moved deeper into Covenant space, carrying with it the weight of 3,000 years of isolation and the promise of something new. Behind it, the quarantine zone stood empty and silent, a memorial to those who had sacrificed everything so that life, even human life, might continue. Commander Vela returned to her command chair, already composing the report that would shake the foundations of the Covenant. The humans had returned, and nothing would ever be the same.